Story 1. Waiting for the river to dry. A lesson in finding joy in the present. Once upon a time, by the side of a gently flowing river, there sat an old beggar. He appeared deep in thought, gazing at the water as it moved steadily downstream. His clothes were worn, his face weathered, but there was a quiet wisdom about him. As he sat there, a passerby, curious about the beggar's stillness, approached him. The man asked, "What are you doing sitting here all alone by the river?" The beggar looked up with a calm smile and replied, "I am waiting for the river to dry up so that I can cross to the other side." The man laughed in disbelief. He said, "That's impossible. The river will never dry up. If you wait for that, you will never be able to cross." The beggar, still smiling, nodded. "Yes, my friend, I know. The river will never stop flowing, just as life never stops moving forward. But I am not truly waiting for the river to dry up. What I am trying to show is how people live their lives, constantly waiting for the right moment to be happy. They tell themselves, once all my responsibilities are finished, then I will enjoy life. Once my work is done, then I will take time to relax, to travel, to spend time with loved ones, to serve others. But they do not realize that this moment may never come." The man, intrigued by the beggar's words, sat down beside him, eager to learn more. The beggar continued, "People often speak as if there will come a day when all their burdens will be lifted, when all their duties will be done, and only then will they allow themselves to find peace and happiness. Life doesn't work that way. Just as this river keeps flowing without pause, so too do our responsibilities. There is always something to be done, another task, another duty. If we keep waiting for everything to be perfect before we enjoy life, we may spend our whole lives waiting and never truly live." The man began to see the truth in the beggar's words. He thought about his own life, how he had always postponed his happiness, telling himself he would have time later after his work was finished. But now, sitting by the river, he realized that his responsibilities never really ended. There was always something more to do, another task pulling him away from the joy he sought. The beggar looked at the man kindly and said, "Buddha taught us that the present moment is precious. It is all we truly have. If we keep waiting for the perfect moment, for the river to stop flowing, we will miss the beauty and joy that exists right here, right now. We must learn to carry our responsibilities as we move through life, but not let them weigh us down so much that we forget to live. We should not wait until every task is complete before we allow ourselves to be happy." The man nodded, understanding now what the beggar meant. "But how do we do this?" he asked. "How do we balance our duties with the desire to enjoy life?" The beggar smiled warmly and said, "The key lies in recognizing that happiness is not something we must wait for. It is something we can find in the small moments of our everyday lives, even while we fulfill our responsibilities. Just as this river flows continuously, so too must we keep moving, but with mindfulness. Instead of waiting for a distant day when all is done, we must seek joy in the present moment, in a conversation with a friend, in the laughter of a child, in the beauty of the world around us. We must serve, work, and fulfill our duties, but not at the cost of our happiness. Life is a delicate balance, and we must learn to carry our responsibilities lightly." The man listened carefully, realizing how often he had put off happiness for later, waiting for a time when his life would be free of burdens. But now he saw that such a time might never come. He had been living as if one day the river of life would stop flowing, and only then could he cross to the other side and find joy. But the beggar's wisdom showed him that he didn't need to wait. He could find peace and happiness right where he was, even as he fulfilled his responsibilities. The beggar finished by saying, "Our lives are short, my friend. One day our time here will end, but the river of life will keep flowing. Our tasks and duties may never fully disappear, but that should not stop us from living fully. If we wait for the perfect moment to be happy, we may wait forever. Instead, we must learn to walk through life with joy, balancing our responsibilities with moments of laughter, love, and peace. That is the true path to happiness." The man thanked the beggar for his wisdom and went on his way, his heart lighter and his mind clearer. He no longer saw his responsibilities as barriers to happiness, but as companions on his journey through life. And from that day on, he found joy in the small moments, knowing that he didn't have to wait for the river to dry up to live a happy, fulfilling life. The beggar remained by the river, a reminder to all who pass by that life's responsibilities are constant. But so too is the opportunity for happiness. The lesson, rooted in Buddha's teachings, was clear: do not wait for the burdens of life to end before you live fully. Happiness is found not in the absence of duties, but in the way we carry them along the path of life. Story 2. 2 hands to clap. Buddha's lesson on judgment and shared responsibility. After Gautama Buddha became a monk, he traveled to various villages to share his wisdom and teachings. One sunny day, he arrived in a small village where he was met with curiosity and admiration. Among those who gathered to see him was a woman who approached Buddha with a question. "O Mahatma," she said respectfully, "you look like a prince. May I ask why you wear these simple okosha robes at such a young age?" With a gentle smile, Buddha replied, "I have chosen this path to seek answers to 3 profound questions that weigh heavily on my heart. This body, which may appear young and attractive today, will inevitably grow old, fall ill, and eventually face death. I am on a quest to understand the true causes of old age, sickness, and death." The woman was deeply moved by Buddha's sincerity and wisdom. Inspired by his words, she invited him to her home for a meal, eager to share in his teachings. However, as the news of Buddha's visit spread through the village, some villagers approached him with grave concerns. "O Mahatma," they cautioned, "you should not eat at that woman's house. She has a reputation for being of questionable character." Buddha listened to their concerns patiently and then turned to the head of the village, an elder respected by all. "Do you believe this woman is characterless?" he asked. The village chief nodded and replied firmly, "O Mahatma, I swear that she is indeed characterless." With a thoughtful expression, Buddha took the village chief's right hand and raised it. "Tell me," he asked, "can you clap with just one hand?" The chief looked puzzled and responded, "No, Mahatma, it is impossible to clap with only one hand." Buddha then said, "Just as you cannot clap with one hand, it is equally impossible for this woman to be characterless on her own. If she is seen as such, it implies that some of the men in this village must also share in that blame. If the men of this village were virtuous and honorable, then this woman would not be defined by her reputation. Therefore, the characterlessness of this woman is a reflection of the moral state of the men around her." Buddha continued, "When lust for a characterless person flourishes, it leads to shamelessness and betrayal in women. Similarly, it is those shameless actions that can contribute to making men of this society lose their virtue. Remember, it takes 2 hands to clap." The villagers listened intently, and as they absorbed Buddha's wisdom, a sense of shame washed over them. They realized how quick they had been to judge the woman without considering their own roles in the situation. Buddha, with his calm demeanor, emphasized, "It is easy to see the faults of others, but it is much harder to recognize our own shortcomings. Just as a man scatters the husks of grain in the wind, we readily point out the faults of others, spreading them far and wide. Yet like a hidden illness, we often conceal our own faults, refusing to acknowledge them." His words resonated deeply with the villagers. They felt a collective responsibility to reflect on their actions and attitudes, understanding that true change begins within themselves. Buddha's teachings encourage them to cultivate compassion, understanding, and self-awareness rather than casting judgment on others. From that day forward, the villagers approached their relationships with greater kindness and introspection, fostering a community where everyone, including the woman, could thrive without the weight of shame or blame. Buddha's teachings illuminated their hearts, reminding them that we are all interconnected and responsible for one another's well-being. Story 3. Patience and clarity. Buddha's lesson of the settling mind. Once, Gautama Buddha was traveling through the countryside with a group of his followers. After a long walk under the warm sun, they came upon a peaceful lake nestled between the trees. Buddha stopped, took in the sight of the clear water, and then turned to one of his disciples. "I am thirsty," he said calmly. "Could you please bring me some water from the lake?" The disciple nodded and hurried to the edge of the lake with a small vessel. But just as he was about to gather the water, a bullock cart began crossing through the lake. The cart's wheels stirred up the water, turning it muddy and unclear. The disciple hesitated, looking at the dirty water swirling in front of him. "How can I bring this muddy water to the Buddha?" he thought to himself. So he returned to Buddha and said, "Master, the water is dirty. It is not fit to drink." Buddha listened patiently but did not seem concerned. He waited a while before he gently asked the disciple again, "Please go back to the lake and bring me some water." The disciple, though puzzled, obeyed. He returned to the lake and found that the water was still murky. The mud was swirling, and the lake had not cleared. Disappointed, he came back to the Buddha and repeated, "The water is still too dirty to drink, Master." Buddha simply smiled and said nothing. Time passed, and once again, Buddha asked the same disciple, "Please go back to the lake and fetch some water." This time, when the disciple reached the lake, he noticed something different. The water was no longer muddy, so mud had settled to the bottom, leaving the surface clear and calm. Delighted, the disciple filled his vessel with the now crystal clear water and brought it to the Buddha. Buddha looked at the water and then at his disciple with a serene smile. "Do you see," he said, "what you did to clear this water? Nothing. You simply waited, and with time the mud settled on its own, allowing the clear water to rise to the surface. He paused, allowing the disciple to absorb this simple yet profound lesson. Then, Buddha continued, "Your mind is just like this water. When it is restless, agitated, or clouded by emotions like anger or worry, it is difficult to see things clearly. But if you simply wait and allow time to pass, the mind will settle on its own. You don't need to force it or try to control it. Just like the water, it will become clear again with patience." Buddha's words sank deep into the disciple's heart. He realized that there is no need to rush to fix a troubled mind. Like the lake, sometimes all the mind needs is time and stillness to regain clarity. Buddha continued, "I know that when you lose something or someone you love, it feels impossible to stay calm. The pain and sadness seem overwhelming. But remember, just like the muddy water, with time the heartache will settle and peace will return. Falling in love may be something that happens without your control, but staying attached to that love is your choice. Time heals, and by trusting the flow of life, you can calm your mind and find peace again. There is always a deeper reason behind everything that happens." This simple yet powerful teaching of Buddha reminds us that when life feels chaotic or overwhelming, we don't need to act impulsively or try to fix everything right away. With patience, clarity will naturally emerge, and we can find peace within ourselves, just as the clear water emerges from the settling mud. Story 4. The Crab and the Wave, a lesson in hidden blessings. Once upon a time, there was a crab enjoying a peaceful walk along the beach. He loved the feeling of the warm sand beneath him and took great delight in the little footprints he left behind. Every now and then he would stop, turn around, and look back at his footprints, admiring the delicate patterns they made. It brought him joy, a simple pleasure in seeing the mark he was leaving on the world. But as he was walking further along the shore, a powerful wave suddenly crashed onto the beach. The water rushed over his footprints, completely washing them away. The crab became furious and shouted at the wave, "Why did you do that? I thought you were my friend. You wiped away the beautiful footprints I had made. What kind of friend are you?" The wave, calm and wise, gently replied, "My dear friend, look over there." The crab turned his gaze and noticed fishermen nearby, carefully watching the sand, tracking the crabs by following their footprints. "Those fishermen are catching crabs by following their footprints," the wave continued. "I was not erasing your marks to upset you. I was protecting you from being caught. Sometimes what you see as harm is actually a way of keeping you safe." The crab, taken aback, realized the truth in the wave's words. What seemed like a loss was actually an act of kindness. He lowered his claws and quietly thanked the wave for saving him from danger. This simple story teaches us an important lesson. Often, we misunderstand the intentions of others. We see only our perspective and feel hurt or anger without knowing the full story. Like the crab, we sometimes forget that what appears as a setback may be a blessing in disguise. Life, like the wave, has a way of protecting us, even when we can't see it. Every situation has two sides, and wisdom lies in understanding both before making judgments. As the Buddha once taught, life is full of challenges and misunderstandings, but with patience and a deeper look, we can find compassion and understanding in even the most difficult moments. Rather than reacting with frustration or anger, take a moment to see the bigger picture. There's always more to learn if we open our hearts and minds. Story 5. The Eagle Who Believed It Was a Chicken, a story of self-realization. In a vast and peaceful forest, there stood an ancient banyan tree with wide, sprawling branches. This tree was home to many creatures, and among them was a mighty eagle who had built her nest high up in its branches. She laid her eggs there, safe and sound. Beneath the same tree, in the shelter of its strong roots, a wild hen also found a place to lay her eggs. The two birds lived their lives separately, unaware that fate had something unexpected in store for them. One day, a strong gust of wind blew through the forest, and one of the eagle's eggs accidentally fell from the nest above. It landed gently on the soft ground, right where the hen had laid her eggs. In time, the eggs of both the hen and the eagle hatched, and all the chicks began to grow together. Among them was the young eagle, who, never knowing its true nature, believed itself to be just another chicken. The young eagle mimicked the behavior of the other chicks. It scratched at the ground, looking for grains, and clucked like a chicken. When it tried to fly, it could only flutter a short distance, just like the others. In its mind, this was all it could do, because it saw itself as nothing more than a chicken. Day after day, it lived this life, completely unaware of the strength and majesty that lay within. One bright afternoon, the young eagle looked up at the sky and saw a magnificent bird soaring high above the treetops. It was gliding effortlessly through the sky, its wings spread wide, radiating strength and freedom. The young eagle was in awe. "What kind of bird is that?" it asked the mother hen. The hen glanced up at the sky and replied, "That is an eagle, the king of all birds. They are strong and free, flying higher than any other creature." "Why can't I fly like that?" asked the young eagle, feeling a strange stirring in its heart. "You're not an eagle," the hen said firmly. "You are a chicken, and chickens don't fly like that. We stay on the ground where we belong. It's just the way things are." The young eagle accepted this explanation and continued to live as a chicken, never attempting to fly high again. It lived out its days in the shadow of its true potential, and when its time came, it passed away, never realizing it could have soared in the skies above, just like the eagle it had admired. This story carries a profound lesson. Often in life, we are told by others, "You can't do this," or "It's not possible for you," and slowly, we start to believe it. We stop trying new things or daring to dream because we accept the limits others place upon us. The real problem is not what others say, but that we lose faith in ourselves. We forget our own strength, our own potential, just like the eagle that lived its whole life believing it was a chicken. Buddha taught that self-realization is the key to breaking free from the illusions we are trapped in. Just as the young eagle never realized its true nature, many of us never realize the full extent of our own capabilities. The real prison is the one we create in our minds by doubting ourselves and listening to the voices that tell us we are not enough. Buddha often spoke of the importance of having faith, not just in the external world but in ourselves. He believed that within each of us lies immense potential, like the eagle born to soar the skies. But to unlock that potential, we must first recognize it. Just as the eagle was conditioned to believe it was a chicken, we too are often conditioned by the limitations imposed by others, by society, and by our own fears. The brave are not those who succeed because they know they will win, but those who continue forward, even when defeat seems certain. True courage lies in believing in yourself, in pushing beyond what others say is possible, and in not giving up even when the path ahead looks difficult. Just as the eagle was meant to soar, each of us is meant to rise beyond the limits placed upon us by doubt. So friends, let others say what they will. Know yourself. Have faith in your abilities, your strength, and your purpose. The only limits that truly exist are the ones we accept. Buddha's wisdom reminds us that freedom, like the eagle soaring in the sky, begins with recognizing the potential within. Story 6. The Brave Little Bird, a story of effort and intention. Once upon a time, there was a small house at the edge of a village. One evening, a terrible fire broke out in the house, and flames began to engulf it. The villagers quickly gathered, doing everything they could to put out the fire. Some brought buckets of water, others used blankets to smother the flames, while some simply stood by, helpless and unsure of what to do. High up in the corner of the burning house was a bird's nest. In that nest lived a tiny bird, and though its home was being consumed by flames, the bird was not ready to give up. Determined to save what little it could, the bird flew to a nearby stream, filled its beak with water, and returned to the burning house. With great effort, it poured the few drops of water onto the fire. The bird did this over and over, flying back and forth between the stream and the fire. Each time it carried only a small drop of water, barely enough to make a difference. But the bird never stopped, its heart filled with determination to help in any way it could. A crow, sitting on a nearby tree, watched the bird's efforts with amusement. He shook his head and called out to the bird, "You foolish little bird. What are you doing? No matter how many times you fly back and forth, you'll never be able to put out this fire. It's far too big for you." The bird, panting from its effort but still filled with purpose, paused and looked at the crow. "I know," the bird said softly. "I am aware that my small drops of water will not put out this fire. But that is not the point." The crow tilted its head, confused. "If you know that, why are you still wasting your energy?" The bird replied with a steady voice, Because when people talk about this fire, I want them to say that I did my part to help, no matter how small. I don't want to be remembered as the one who stood by, watching and laughing while others struggled. I want to be on the side that tried. The crow fell silent. It had no response to the bird's simple yet profound words. The bird continued its brave efforts, knowing that the true value of its actions was not in whether the fire was extinguished, but in the fact that it had not stood by passively. This story carries a deep and meaningful lesson. Just like the bird, many of us face situations where the challenges seem overwhelming, and others may mock our efforts or tell us that we cannot succeed. There are always people who would rather watch from the sidelines, offering no help, only criticism. These are the people who discourage, who mock, and who take pleasure in seeing others fail, just as the crow did. But Buddha's teachings remind us of the importance of right effort and intention. In life, it is not always about whether we succeed in a grand way or whether we solve every problem. It is about whether we take action, whether we make an effort to do what is right, even in the face of failure or criticism. Buddha often spoke of the power of intention, the heart and mind behind our actions. It is the intention to do good, to help, to be a part of the solution that matters most. In this world, it is easy to feel small and insignificant when the challenges ahead seem too great to overcome. But just as the bird kept pouring drops of water on the fire, we must continue to put forth our best effort, no matter how small it may seem. The Buddha taught that small acts of kindness, compassion, and effort can create ripples that spread far and wide. The real problem lies not with those who try and fail, but with those who do nothing but criticize. These people, like the crow, do not understand that every small action toward goodness matters. Buddha's wisdom encourages us to surround ourselves with those who uplift us, those who inspire us to keep going, even when the road is difficult. The lesson here is simple: do not be discouraged by the mockery or negativity of others. Believe in your own strength, no matter how small it may seem. Every drop counts, and every effort adds to the greater good. Even when success seems impossible, continue to act with purpose, with kindness, and with the intention to make a difference. Just like the brave little bird, let your actions speak for themselves. The world will always have its share of crows, those who watch and laugh, but the ones who try, the ones who keep going, are the ones who leave a lasting mark on the world. Story 7. The Wise Serpent: A Lesson in Nonviolence and Inner Strength. During the time when Gautama Buddha was spreading the profound message of nonviolence and compassion, all kinds of beings sought his guidance and wisdom. One day, a snake approached Buddha, seeking initiation into the path of enlightenment. The snake, with sincerity in its voice, said, "Lord, I wish to walk the path of peace and be free from my violent nature. Please grant me initiation." Buddha looked at the snake and replied, "You still have violence in your heart. You bite people, causing harm and fear. Until you rid yourself of this behavior, you are not ready for initiation." The snake was disappointed but determined. "Is there no way for me to change? Is there nothing I can do to follow your teachings?" Buddha, seeing the snake's earnestness, said, "There is a way, but it requires discipline. You must stop biting. Let go of your instinct to harm others." The snake responded with hope, "I will stop biting, Lord. I promise." Buddha, however, warned, "It is not enough to simply say it. You must prove it. Pass the test of nonviolence. For 3 days, go among people and behave with kindness and restraint. Do not strike or bite anyone, no matter the provocation. Show the world that you are truly committed to the path of peace." The snake agreed, full of determination. "So be it, Lord. I will follow your instructions." With this, the snake slithered away, intent on proving itself. It chose to lie down on the main street of the city, in full view of everyone. As people passed by and saw the snake, they screamed in terror, running away, fearing for their lives. But the snake, remembering Buddha's teachings, called out to them, "Do not fear. I have made a pledge to Lord Buddha. I will no longer harm anyone. I am here to live with peace and good faith." Nearby, a shopkeeper overheard the snake's words. Curious, he approached cautiously and said, "Snake, even if you claim to have changed, Can a creature with venomous fangs ever truly be a friend to humans? The snake, smiling, replied, "I have removed my venom. I no longer pose a threat to anyone. I am your friend now." The shopkeeper, seeing the opportunity, thought for a moment, and then said with a sly smile, "Well, if you are truly my friend, I could use some help. I have some heavy goods to carry, but I don't have anything to tie them with. Perhaps you could help me by using your body like a rope." Without hesitation, the snake, eager to prove its newfound goodness, agreed. It allowed the shopkeeper to use its body to tie up the heavy bundles of goods, and the shopkeeper carried them home, laughing all the way, pleased with his trick. Days passed, and Buddha, curious to see how the snake was faring, walked along the road to find it. When he finally came upon the snake, he was shocked by what he saw. The once strong and proud snake now lay flattened and torn, barely recognizable. It was weak and miserable. Buddha knelt beside the snake and asked gently, "What has happened to you, my friend? How did you end up in such a state?" With great difficulty, the snake recounted the story of how it had been mocked, mistreated, and taken advantage of by the people, especially by the shopkeeper who used it like a piece of rope to carry his goods. Buddha listened patiently and then said, "I told you not to bite. But I did not tell you to stop defending yourself. You misunderstood the meaning of non-violence. It doesn't mean that you allow yourself to be mistreated or exploited. Non-violence does not mean weakness or submission. There is a difference between not causing harm and not protecting yourself." The snake, realizing its mistake, replied, "I see my error now, Lord. I thought that in order to follow your teachings, I had to abandon all my instincts, but in doing so, I lost myself and became weak." Buddha, with compassion in his eyes, continued, "There are important lessons to be learned here. First, it is your nature to be a snake, and you must not abandon what you are, your dharma, your true path. Lies in finding the balance between your nature and your practice of peace. When you suppress who you are, you create imbalance, which leads to suffering, both for yourself and for others. Second, just as a snake has been gifted with venom as a natural defense, so too should you not give up the blessings of nature. Use your abilities wisely and with discretion, not to harm others, but to protect yourself when needed. Third, never reveal all your intentions or inner strengths to others. There will be those who take advantage of your trust and weakness, as the shopkeeper did with you. The world can be harsh, and it is wise to keep certain aspects of yourself private, especially your vulnerabilities. Finally, initiation in spiritual knowledge should be guided by a true guru. It is not something to be pursued in isolation. The guidance of a teacher is essential in helping you understand the deeper meanings of the teachings. The snake bowed its head, humbled by these insights. "I have learned my lesson, Lord," it said. "I now see that following the path of non-violence does not mean abandoning my nature or becoming weak. It means finding strength within peace and acting wisely." Buddha smiled warmly and said, "Yes, my friend. True wisdom comes from understanding who you are and how to walk the middle path. Non-violence is not about being passive or powerless. It is about living with awareness, compassion, and strength." The snake, grateful for Buddha's teachings, vowed to continue its journey with this new understanding. It would no longer bite out of malice, but it would also not allow itself to be trampled upon. Buddha blessed the snake, saying, "May you walk the path of enlightenment with clarity and strength. You have learned an important lesson today, one that all beings must eventually come to understand. True peace comes from balance." And with that, the snake went on its way, no longer a creature of violence, but a being of wisdom, embodying the teachings of non-violence and inner strength. Buddha, pleased with the snake's progress, continued his journey,